The Montreal Canadiens prospects were in Buffalo, where they played 3 games versus prospects of the Buffalo Sabres, the New Jersey Devils, and the Ottawa Senators, who looked great, who looked very good, who looked average, who looked not so good, who looks like they'll never make it to the show. We'll discuss all of that and more with Grant McCagg, former Montreal Canadiens scout and now of recruits.ca. We'll do it coming up on the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
And now a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Sports entertainment like no other. Brought to you by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, and Xhekaj. If the last time you went to Xhekaj was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you went back to Xhekaj. The menu will surprise you.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, brought to you by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, the beer for those who follow their instinct and live their passions in order to make their mark. And brought to you by Xhekaj. If the last time you went to Xhekaj was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you go back to Xhekaj. The menu will surprise you. I'm going back to Xhekaj. So is the Sick team, many of our collaborators, because the Sick Podcast is going to get a whole lot sicker. We got some more sick news for you. 12 days until the big announcement. Join us at Xhekaj to carry for the sick news. It's on Rue des Jockeys. You can RSVP by calling them at 514-731-2020. One guy who I hope is going to be there, if he'll make the trek down, it's a couple of hours drive from Ottawa. Grant McCagg, what's going on?
Hey, Tony. Oh, ready for the season.
Good. And so am I. And once again, thanks everyone for all their patience over the last 3 weeks where I was in Spain and the Wi-Fi signal wasn't as strong, as steady as it would be here in Canada. So I think we got some growing pains out of the way there, and I think we're good to go. All right. Okay, good. Let's talk about this rookie showcase that took place in Buffalo. There were several teams there. And we'll start with, why don't we start with Emil Heineman? Because he's the one who opened the scoring in Buffalo, and he scored more than one goal. But let's take a look at the first goal for the Montreal Canadiens prospects. It's coming up right now.
Va relancer au centre. Harris laisse du côté droit. Vers Heineman. Le tir de but! Emil Heineman, 1-0 Montréal.
Grant, here's a player who was acquired from the Calgary Flames in the Tyler Toffoli deal. And here's a player who has more experience than some of the other prospects. And I think we saw that in the last week.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tony. He's a little older and played pro a couple of years already in Finland and the AHL. He looks like he's got the physical skills, like the shot and the skating are certainly NHL caliber. He's maybe not the greatest dangler or agility wise, but straight ahead, he's a very powerful skater and has a great shot. And those two things are going to get you an NHL look at some point. I think the Habs have about 15 forwards going, that are already vying for spots at the NHL level. So he probably doesn't start the year in Montreal, but certainly I think he'll be in the top 6 in Laval. And if he keeps developing and rounds out the rest of his game, he's going to get an NHL look pretty soon.
A North-South player.
He's not he's not Mesar out there. He's not gonna beat east to west. But he's a big kid, powerful, and you want wingers that, Josh Anderson type winger, where you can go if you're big enough and fast enough to go north-south. Go north-south. Don't make it too complicated. And when you have a shot like that, he's certainly got top 3 line potential at the NHL level.
So Juraj Slafkovsky, who was drafted first overall, of course, by the Montreal Canadiens, was pretty excited when they drafted his fellow countryman Filip Mesar with the 26th pick overall. And in game 1 versus the Buffalo Sabres in this rookie showcase, they combined while on the penalty kill. Let's take a look.
Dégagement par la bande, ça va se rendre à l'autre extrémité. Ça glisse même à la gauche de Worm. Le Slafkovsky, ça met en pression, en échec avant. Récupère, c'est devant, la passe, la feinte, et le but! En infériorité numérique, Filip Mesar, c'est 2-0 Montréal.
And there you have it, Slafkovsky with the presence of mind to know when someone was coming, to know when Mesar was actually trailing in the play. And those two, they're able to find each other, and he found him, and Mesar actually pots it home. That was his first. He scored a couple in the showcase. What did you think, first and foremost, of Filip Mesar in his game?
Really was impressed with Mesar, but it's not surprising. I watched him a lot last year, and he was pretty good already at the pro level in Slovakia. What I like most about him is his elusiveness. He's just such his edge work is elite. Fantastic skater, quick, and really elusive with the puck. Great puck skills, great shiftiness. And he worked hard. They started him on the wing, but he ended up playing center because they want to have a look. You want to have as many guys that can be versatile, that can play, both the wing and center. I think that's great. That you develop these guys when they play. I think he might go back to junior with Kitchener, and the hope will be that he plays center. And I mean, the more options that you have, at center, the better. And the ones that don't get the spots, they move to the wing because it's an easy transition. I think he showed that he's decent away from the puck. He works hard, intelligent, but at that size, the odds are that he's eventually going to end up on the wing. However, you want them to develop as centerman if that's their natural position, and then later on, if they don't get an NHL job at center, it can easily be shifted to the wing.
Yeah, and you talked about, obviously, the challenges of playing center. You're going to have to play a 200-foot game. You're going to have to take face-offs. It's a different game than playing on the wing, where it comes with more responsibility, of course. And sometimes more responsibility means it takes away from your offense. Mind you, if you historically take a look at the National Hockey League and some of the best point getters, they're usually playmaking centermen. So what's his playmaking ability like?
He's an excellent playmaker. He's got very good vision. The fact that he can possess a puck, he's got the skill to hold on to the puck until the right play, till he sees the right play to make, is an essential part of a lot of NHL centers. Like you look at a Matt Barzal, just as a comparison to somebody that's undersized, has such shiftiness and great puck possession skills that he can hold on to it until he sees the right play and the right option. And I think that's Mesar's ultimate upside. It would be as a second line center if Kirby Dach doesn't work out per se, or say Kapanen or Beck aren't better. It's good to have 4 or 5 guys with the potential to play second line center behind Suzuki, and Mesar is one of them.
If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, comment SICK, S-I-C-K. It's our way of actually feeling the love that you send for us. If you're listening on audio, please leave us a 5-star review and write the word SICK once again, S-I-C-K. Thank you very much for that. All right, okay. Now, the one that is on everyone's lips and everyone wants to talk about it in everyone's minds and all that stuff is Juraj Slafkovsky. Of course, being drafted first overall comes with expectations. We can say not to put pressure on the kid, but he's going to be under the microscope. He will be from day one, and he will be until his very last game with the Montreal Canadiens. In your opinion, did he pass the test at the rookie showcase? And when I say pass the test, my barometer is, does he look like a player who's ready to play in the National Hockey League already? And of course, we're really going to know out of camp. I get that. Pro camp, that is, and not a rookie showcase. Is this what you expected? Are there any concerns whatsoever?
Not really. He, in the first game, it looked like he ran out of gas in the second half. I think, first game, and he was pumped full of adrenaline. That first period, he was back checking, forechecking like a fiend. And I think, training all off season, putting on an extra 10, 15 pounds of muscle. And then by the end of the second period, he looked like he didn't have much left. I think he expended it all. And I think the Habs also thought that as they sat him out in the second game. They said, okay, he's got to actually rest for a day or two. He's been going hard in the gym, putting on all this muscle and not resting. And he looked a lot more invigorated. The second game he played, he competed for the full 60 minutes on the back check, forecheck. That's what I was most impressed with, his play away from the puck. In the second game especially, he just, he's got such great speed and he's so powerful and determined.
He
just
eats up the ice, Grant. When he skates, he eats up the ice. It looks like every time he takes a stride, the ice is in pain.
Yeah, exactly. Dave Auger, who was there for representing recruits, was saying like you can hear the whoosh whoosh on when he's going down the ice. And it's funny, the thing he does on the back check, I've noticed, and I noticed it last year too, but he did it 2 or 3 times, was he sticks the blade of his stick out in front of him like a rudder, almost like, and as he's skating back, he just got his head down and he just, he catches guys that are a full line ahead of him on the back check, which is mighty impressive for an 18-year-old, and we have to keep that in mind at all times. He's an 18-year-old playing against other teams, best rookie prospects that are up to 23, 24 years of age. I mean, I was looking back because he's been training for 4 days, and a lot of people saying, oh, he's a bust because he didn't light it up at the rookie tournament for a couple of games.
Yeah, that's nonsense. I know of rookies who actually lit it up at pro camp and went on to have an average career, and some of them never ended up playing. So it doesn't make a difference. I mean, I don't really pay much attention to that.
No, that's right. But I mean, I just out of curiosity this morning, I had to look back at Connor McDavid's first rookie camp. Did he score 5 goals? Like, you'd think, well, Slafkovsky, they expect Slafkovsky to score 3 or 4 goals a game. McDavid had a fluky goal and an assist at his first rookie showcase. Yeah, and he's, he's the best player in the NHL. So,
yeah,
I mean, you're 18 years old, you're, first time playing. I mean, it's a good level of competition. Like, it's an insult to the other players to suggest that just because you're the first overall pick at 18, you're supposed to go in there and completely dominate, because I wasn't expecting that. And, that's not what we got, but certainly.
But Grant, if I can, pardon me, you're not the first one to tell me that he ran out of gas, because when he played, in the summer league here at Hockey Etc. in the 3-on-3, and he played in that final game, he looked good in the first half of the game. And in the second half of the game, it looked like he was a little bit out of gas. And there's 2 things, right? Number one could be just overall fatigue, like you've been saying, that he's been going all the time and he has not stopped. Number 2 is probably more so, he puts on the 10 or 11 pounds of muscle, and now you're carrying that extra weight, and maybe there's more emphasis on getting bigger than there is working on the cardio aspect. So it begs the question, considering he was already a massive guy, and he dominated at the Olympics versus men as a 17-year-old, and he was a dominant player at the World Championship versus a lot of players who were NHL players, did he have to put on 10 or 11 pounds of muscle?
Well, when you see his speed, I don't think it's hindered him. What I think it is more than anything is that he's got to get in game shape, like players always do. Perhaps maybe he put on a little too much muscle, but that time will tell on that. And of course, everyone's wondering about that. But I think what a lot of players do is they pack on some muscle in the off season, and then he won't be. Halfway through this season, he's not going to weigh 238. He's going to be probably 228 or something like that. The weight drops as the season goes along. And I think even by opening night, I wouldn't be surprised if he's down to 230, something in that range. I can't see him. I don't see him by the end of the season being 248. That's for sure,
Yeah.
And if it is, then he's eaten, because I did ask him, I interviewed him by email and asked him if he had sampled poutine yet, and he said, "Yeah, me and Mess both, have eaten it, and it's good. I just hope that it's not too good."
Listen, speaking of good, I know that you were high on Owen Beck when the Canadiens made the pick. Others were less high on him. I know your buddy the Snake Boisvert was on this Sick podcast, and he said that in his opinion, they probably could have gone with other players, other than Mesar and other than Beck. I think it was Beck. I think that he said maybe they could have looked somewhere else, but he looks like a guy who just does everything good. Like he looks like a student of the game who works hard, wants to get better. He basically I know he plays a different position because he plays center, but he reminds me a lot of Lehkonen in the respect that Lehkonen's a coach's dream type of thing, right? He just does a lot of things good. Beck seems like the kind of young man who does a lot of things good.
That's well put, Tony. I've called him a coach's dream as well before. And I spoke to his coach in the off season, and he obviously loves him. And his speed is such an asset. He's like one of the best skaters from the draft class, and it was obvious. It was on display at the rookie tournament. For an 18-year-old kid to be perhaps the fastest player on the ice is pretty impressive. In fact, him, Mesar, and Slafkovsky were three of the best skaters, I thought, in the whole tournament. And for three 18-year-olds to be able to do that, I think is a testament to I think the Canadians, with their first four picks, hit it out of the park. I think that more so now after seeing Mesar and Hudson at the development camp as well. I think all four of those they're all going to be NHL players, and they're all going to be very good ones. And I mean, you're lucky if you can get two out of a draft. They say usually maybe three. I think all four of them are going to be excellent NHL players down the road. The question mark being Hudson because of his size more so. Yeah. But Beck, I think, and I tweeted this out, is I think you're going to see quite an offensive explosion from him in his second year. It's really only his second year in the OHL, because of COVID.
Yeah,
they didn't play the year before.
Yeah,
and his coach pointed that out before, that 50 points may not seem great on the surface, but when you consider playing a top two center role as a rookie in the OHL against the other team's top lines, and this year he'll just be dominant. He figures maybe 100-point year, and I wouldn't doubt it. He looks like he's going to be a 35 goal scorer at minimum in the OHL this year, and might be more if he doesn't make the World Junior team. But I have a feeling that he'll be playing for Canada in December.
Yeah, and best face-off man in the OHL, so that's exactly. He's got that going for him as well. We'll get back to Slafkovsky here, and you said he's got to get in game shape, so I'll give a shout-out to matrixhomefitness.ca, who took care of me because I was able to bring it home, discover a club-quality workout in the comfort of your own home. Visit matrixhomefitness.ca, and maybe they can get Juraj Slafkovsky a treadmill or a bike, because it looks like he broke the one that he had at the Habs Combine. All right, okay. Let's get back to him. We talked about him putting on the 10 or 11 pounds of muscle. I think he's coming in now at like 6'3" or 6'4", about 238 pounds. Well, he's, when you're the number one pick overall, you're going to be a little bit of a target. And when you're an 18-year-old and you're a big guy, sometimes you usually end up having your head down a lot because you never really exercised the IQ of your game because you got by on such, on your size. Let's take a look at this. He got caught, I think, with his head down. He got hit, but he didn't move all that much, and we'll see what happened thereafter as a teammate came to his defense. Let's take a look.
Slafkovsky s'avance, a frappé un mur en Berzola, et c'est le mur qui a craqué. Xhekaj. On va vers Slafkovsky. La bagarre éclate. C'est Condotta qui jette les gants contre Berzola, qui est venu plaquer Slafkovsky, justement. Et Condotta a choisi d'en prendre une pour l'équipe. Les juges de ligne qui intervenir.
As it was put, Slafkovsky hits a wall, and it's the wall who actually got the worst of it. And then Condotta comes in and says, "You're not touching my teammate who was drafted first overall." Grant, people have already started now, whether he's going to start in the American Hockey League, start in the National Hockey League, end up going to the American Hockey League. I believe he'll be respected more in the National Hockey League than in the American Hockey League. I believe in the American Hockey League, he might end up being a target, and everyone's going to want to make a name for themselves to try and hit the big first pick overall. Would you agree with that assessment? Yes or no?
I think, yeah, that's probably true. I think there's maybe a few more tough guys in the AHL as well at this point because, you have to be pretty good all around player now to play in the NHL with very few exceptions.
Yeah.
But mind you, Candota and Xhekaj are probably going to be in Laval, and they certainly could, they can both protect him. I was very impressed with Candota coming to his defense there. And, I've heard from when I interviewed several of his former coaches, they talked about how this guy's a warrior and strong as an ox. And, you don't see it in college because they don't really fight because they get kicked out of the game. But you're going to see him he's going to get a reputation in the AHL pretty quickly as being a really tough kid. And,
Grant, I think you made a good point. Pardon me. I think you made a good point when you talked about the fact that there's more tough guys in the AHL than there is in the National Hockey League. Because in the National Hockey League, if you don't know how to play, chances are you're not gonna play in the National Hockey League, right? With the exception of maybe a couple who are maybe average level but are there because they can still fight. But those numbers are going down. It helps when you have a Candota and a Arber Xhekaj on your team for sure, if he would be playing in Laval. But I don't think players wouldn't hit him because he has those guys as teammates. I think they would hit him anyway. Would they end up getting beat up by Candota or Xhekaj? They would, but by that point, the damage would already be done, right? So I think you brought up a good point when you say, there's more players in the American Hockey League who probably are those fourth line enforcers than there would be in the National Hockey League. And that's why I see him in the National Hockey League. And I also see him in the National Hockey League. And I've been one to say, I like keeping players in the American Hockey League level or overseas. But when it's a first pick overall, what happens, I find, is if you don't start them in the NHL and the second pick and the third pick and the fourth pick, or maybe even the fifth pick are playing, it can hurt your confidence. And we all know Doug Wickenheiser was scratched for one game, like the first game of the National Hockey League in 81, right? And versus Denny Savard, and he was never the same after. No. So I think for Slafkovsky's confidence, he's got to play in the National Hockey League.
Absolutely. And it's not like he doesn't have the physical skills to do it. I mean, you saw that hit, there's probably very few NHL defensemen that can level him even at this point. He's so strong, especially the lower body. But, that said, Eric Lindros was so strong too. And, it reminded me an awful lot of the Scott Stevens hit on Lindros, where he had his head down coming through the middle of the ice. It was almost a carbon copy of it. And I mean, if head is the first point of contact, that's a different hit than what happened there, because he didn't get hit in the head first,
Grant, but that's a concern that I have. Big players, and Slafkovsky's been bigger than everyone he's played against for at least a couple of years. When I talked to him, he told me that it's, he's been the same size for the last 2 years in terms of height. They get by on their physical attributes. They just steamroll other players that they don't have to exercise their hockey brain or their hockey IQ, because they rely so much on their physical attributes. They don't need to rely on anything else. Eventually that catches up to you. So if you enter the National Hockey League and you're used to stick handling with your head down and stuff like that, you're going to get hit.
Yeah, I don't think he does it all the time. I watched him about 50 games last year, and on occasion, you saw that. But I think he just wanted to impress so much in that, that first game especially. And he was, that other, you don't have the clip, but the other, I don't know if you saw it or not, the highlight of him, he almost went through all 5 players on the other team. He was trying trying a little too hard to impress, because he's the first overall pick, as you brought up before, and he wants to be beloved, and he wants to be the best. What I was most encouraged about was that the issues that we saw in the first game. One of them being that he ran out of gas. Didn't see that in the second game. He forechecked hard and backchecked hard, right, from the start to the finish. So I really don't think the weight thing, I think it was more just the case of him, you know what it's like, Tony. You're so pumped up for a soccer game or whatever in your past, and you just expend everything in that first, and you run out of gas, and it's more of an adrenaline thing, I think, than anything.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a game shape, like in being out of shape or anything like that, because he's a workout machine in the gym. But the other thing was he didn't try that fancy, cute stuff in the second game. Dump it in. I mean, we saw on the shorthanded goal in the first how effective he is at chasing pucks when they're dumped in and getting to the defenseman and muscling them out of the way and getting.
He's unbelievable at protecting the puck. Oh. He's unbelievable at protecting the puck. Like soon as his lower body, which is already strong, is going to get even stronger. Yeah. It's going to be almost impossible to take the puck away from this kid in a couple of years.
But his and his ability, like I think he must have had about 6 at least takeaways in that second game. His reach, when he gets out and he reaches, he's so strong that he can move a guy away with his arms 2 feet from his body with his strength and get the puck. So and I think he already got the message, got the memo from the coaches. They said, dump it in and go get it. Use that size and strength and speed. And we saw it in the second game where, he didn't try to get too cute. He's going to have to use that power to his advantage. He's going to dangle and score some pretty goals, but he's going to be way more effective just utilizing that pure physical size and strength that he has.
All right. Okay. Now, in ending, speaking of size and strength, let's take a look at this guy, Arber Xhekaj. He took care of business versus a player from the Ottawa Senators. I think we have it here. Let's bring it up.
Il y a un début d'altercation et c'est la bagarre là, qui éclate. Xhekaj qui va régler des comptes avec Massicotte. Oh! Une droite fracassante d'Arber Xhekaj.
Well, you spoke of adrenaline. I think that's the only reason why Massicotte actually got up, because, I don't want to be embarrassed here. Let me get up. But, I mean, he got hit by Jack the Giant Killer there. This Arber Xhekaj, my God, what's in his fist? Like steel? Like, this is one. Wow, this is one mean dude.
Well, he's from Hamilton, so, maybe there is steel in there, Tony.
Yeah, good one.
I called it the Massicotte Massacre, I don't like watching that too much, especially when the kid got up. I felt sorry for him because you could just tell, he was in pain. That one rocked him. I think he might have a concussion, but we saw it last year, and he's going to be an NHL heavyweight someday. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I haven't seen many kids, tougher kids coming up, especially that has the skill. Like, I mean, he can skate. He's excellent skater, very good one-on-one defender, decent puck skills. I mean, he's got it all to be an NHL shutdown defender. I think he's just improves every year, leaps and bounds. And there's just so much to like about this guy as a tough, physical shutdown defender.
All right. So pro camp coming up. First preseason game on Monday, September 26th, and first game of the NHL regular season on Wednesday, October 12th. Grant, it's almost here. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for doing this, man. We'll talk to you soon. He's Grant McCagg, former Montreal Canadiens scout in the Bob Gainey regime, and opened up his independent scouting service several years ago. It's recruits.ca, and you can get copies of all his work. And just this summer, I think he spoke to pretty much almost anybody who's anybody within the Canadiens prospect pool, and you'll have access to all those interviews and everything and all those articles that Grant did by signing up on recruits.ca. Right, Grant?
That's great. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Grant. And I hope to see you on Saturday, October 1st, as I'm going to be at Xhekaj with the sick team, and we're going to have some of our collaborators there, and you've collaborated in the past, and I look forward to collaborating with you in the future. So I know it's a couple of hours drive, but if you can make your way down, your meal and your beverages are on me, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. There you have it. Grant McCagg of recruits.ca. Marinaro, you can follow us on all social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and on Twitter. I'm Marinaro, the Sick Podcast. It's going to get sicker. We'll talk to you about it on Saturday, October 1st. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by 8.6, Intense by Nature, and Xhekaj. If the last time you went to Xhekaj was when the Habs won the cup, it's time you went back to Xhekaj. The menu will surprise you.